Hello, hope everybody's doing well. A lot of information, like so much information. I had the presentations beforehand and kind of got to look through them, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, you guys kind of get a fire hose of information, so it's good. I am with Apprisen. A lot of you in the community may know us as Consumer Credit Counseling Service, and so that's kind of, all of you go, I just heard, oh. So it kind of gives you an idea and a remembrance of who we are. So today I'm going to talk about income stability in the household and what that looks like. What if at any given time our income is not necessarily guaranteed? At any time an employer can call, or you as an employer have to make tough decisions, and things happen through either emergencies or loss of job, or maybe issues with relationships that cause divorce, and divorce can just devastate a household's finances. Anything can happen. Emergencies could include car issues. It can include so many different things that are just difficult to handle if you don't have some type of security in place. What makes enough of a safety net? What is that safety net for you guys? And what's interesting is there's so many people out there with so much information about your finances, what it should look like, and really what it comes down to is each individual has to make that decision and then be content with that amount and feel safe with that amount, and then go forward from there and set good goals to reach there. So what does financial security in your household look like? For me, it's a savings account with at least 3 months of expenses, not income, but actually what's going to be leaving in the case. What can I cut back and not have to pay for, but actual expenses. It also gives you a cushion even during that time, maybe for emergencies of having to see a doctor or get medical care or take care of an injury, like I said, or a change in work situation or whatever it is, being able to kind of pad that area over for a specific amount of time. Also, financial security would definitely have saving for future needs. There's so many times where I just recently had to buy tires, and luckily we had saved up for those things. That's not even necessarily an emergency, that's just maintenance. But having that extra savings in place, having a plan in place before something arises, can really cut down on credit card use or turning to other forms of financial security. So also, something that financial security does, it reduces the chance of falling into poverty because it can kind of cover some bumps. It covers some of those issues that may arise over time, like all of us have had, you know, unplanned expenses. Oh man, Christmas is here. Wait, no, Christmas should be planned, guys. So start planning for Christmas, those kinds of things. So who this affects is right now, there's over 42,000 people who technically are living in under poverty level in this area. That's almost the equivalent to the city of Richland. So you can see that this is a huge problem where it's not even necessarily saying that they're unemployed. This is just people that are working that maybe are underemployed, not making enough money to provide that stability in the household. So people in Benton, Franklin counties, they have you can see that they're that even 3 people in a household trying to live on $18,000. I mean, if you try that experiment, try it even for a month, divided by 12, and try to do it for 1 month, and just see what this looks like, and to kind of feel that hurt. There's a great documentary out there where a gentleman tries to live on minimum wage, him and his wife, and it's really interesting to see the struggles and the things that they go through, even of trying to get transportation to and from work with living on such a limited income. You can also see that as the state of Washington, when we look at per capita income, Benton County is 13% lower than the state, and then Franklin County is 34% lower. So you can see that there's some issues in income earning in this area. Even though unemployment is actually quite on a good downturn for this area, it's that there's underemployment and there's pretty big gaps in what people are making there. Poverty level is not the only thing that's causing issues. There's other things that are also causing the issues, and a lot of people don't have 3 months worth of savings. It's a difficult task to get to that point. I would guess that even a lot of you in this room don't have 3 months worth of expenses saved in a savings account, and can attest to the struggle of even putting $5 into a savings out of each paycheck. We feel like we're stretched to the limit, and whatever we make, we spend to what we make. We're going to use it all and use it well. So there's not really necessarily a huge demographic in this case. It's not a specific person. It could look like me, it can look like you. It doesn't necessarily mean somebody in that poverty level. It just means that we as people, we like to spend money. We have fun spending our money. We work hard to earn it, and then we like to spend it. And like it says here, it affects nearly 100,000 people in this community. So you can see that it's not just one individual, it's a lot of people who don't have that safety net. So things that can cause financial insecurity: unemployment. Chronic unemployment is kind of an interesting one because it's somebody who may bounce around to one job, it doesn't work out, moves to the other. We're seeing a lot of that. Underemployment, that's just, you just don't make enough money. I mean, you're working hard, but the wage just doesn't cover what you need that wage to cover. Unstable or seasonal employment. We're coming into the season of seasonal employment. If you pick up the paper today, I bet there's seasonal jobs in there right now for retailers or people who are trying to pick up extra help for the craziness that happens after Thanksgiving, or even earlier this year. So they want you to spend more. Debt, and so this is an interesting thing that I deal with every day at Apprisen, and that's credit card debt. We see this average, that's great. It starts at 10 to 15, but it goes much, much higher. So understand that this is an average, so you've got a lot of people that are beating this number by quite a bit. And once you add that to maybe an emergency or something else, you see that income stability in the household plays into the fact that now they've lived up to this level. They have all these requirements of maybe a house payment, a car payment. Then you add the credit card payments because they're buying things maybe over their means. They'll pay for it later. And they'll pay for it a long time. And so what's interesting is you'll start to see this when people are really in trouble, they'll turn to their credit cards. And once that runs out, that's when it's at its worst, that's when they'll really start searching for help. If they start searching for help at a sooner time or a quicker time, they could actually get rid of some of this and actually make their financial position a lot better. So the median household savings nationwide is 0, despite the average American having $668 left over each month after paying their bills. They are deciding to spend more. So what this is saying is there is an opportunity to save, and if you don't force yourself to or set it as a priority or put it at the top of the list, what happens in most spending plans, people will put their savings at the bottom of the spending plan, where it really should be at the top, because if it's at the bottom, it doesn't happen. And so things that are great in this, I would guess that even in this room, this number would probably be different of how much is actually saved, so it would be interesting to see that. But in America, having a 0% savings is not surprising. Hearing stories and being involved in the financial field, we're seeing this consistently. One of the main questions we ask is, how much do you have in savings to maybe help reduce some of your credit card debt and have an emergency fund and those things? And I rarely hear anything over what I have in my checking account to pay my bills right now. And so this can easily be, it's knowledge, it's choice, it's saying no to things. We're coming into to a season right now with Christmas and those kinds of things where we just want to buy now, and we will pay for it the rest of the year until Christmas comes around again. We'll buy again, and we'll pay for it the rest of that year. And that trend of overspending and maybe even delaying having to spend that money in savings for products and things that we're going to need in the future, it can really help put a good foundation of financial stability in place for emergencies or other things that could come up. Almost half of all U.S. households live paycheck to paycheck and couldn't come up with $2,000 if they had to. And so what that says to me is that we are short-sighted. Even myself, it took a long time to, figure out savings and go, okay, this has to be a priority. And then when it's a priority, not saying, oh, there's a sale, I'm going to get that because it's a good deal right now. But now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do everything I can to protect that savings and not have to use it. Even in my own life, there have been emergencies that have come up, and I have done everything I possibly can to not have to use my emergency fund. So even in setting up a monthly spending plan, we will try to maneuver things to not have to pay out of the emergency fund because it is brutal to acquire that much savings. Where are people turning when it does get difficult, though? A big trend we're seeing is check cashing, payday loans, pawn shops that do title loans and all kinds of things. Family, friends, faith community, and also credit cards. So we're seeing a lot of people, and I'm hoping on the thumb drive there's a link to a movie called Spent. And in the Spent movie, it kind of goes over some payday lending. It gives you an idea. But the Spent movie it's longer. I think it's about 45 minutes, but it really talks about a couple different people in different financial situations. It's well made. I recommend taking your time and seeing it. But some interest rates for check cashing 300+%, where an average credit card's 29%. So you can see some issues. Neither are necessarily good. So as you can see, though, we turn to a lot of different places. Impacts on no savings employment. If car breaks down, you may have issues getting to and from work or fixing things. Healthcare, can't afford co-pays, deductibles. Some reform may help that or hurt it, depending on your situation financially. Housing, can't come up with deposits or change if you need to move from a rental to buying a home. It's a big leap, a big step. So having some savings there can help that. I'm going to just go through a quick story of a person. We'll call her Monica. She's 45 years old, mother of 2, works full-time. Her husband was injured at work, was going to get disability, ended up not getting disability, and they had no savings. They had used their credit cards. The gap in the wage to pay just minimum expenses when the husband was hurt was $800. So a savings account of $2,000 gets them through a few months, and eventually he was back to work, but now they've got the credit cards, the payday loans, the family loans, other obligations that they created during this emergency time. So they come to us and we try to help organize them and get them a good spending plan and get them back on track. But it's a super common story. It happens a lot. How can we increase it? Get a job that pays a good wage. That could include increasing education. Yes, increased education costs are going up, but at the same time, it can correlate to a better paycheck. People who have a education actually are earning 2.5 times what somebody with just a high school diploma is. So having an education supports better earnings. Managing the money they make and just make sure they're budgeting it well. So having a spending plan in place, following it, tracking, knowing how much money, where it's all going, very important. Saving for the future. Setting aside or automatic payments into a savings account, $5, $10, $20, start somewhere, and just get used to that money out of your budget, and it can really help. Some organizations that are doing amazing things right here. Junior Achievement helps teach kids about financial responsibility. They also let the parents in there and kind of see what their kids are learning. I've heard great stories where the kids come back from a JA World event and they're teaching their parents how to budget because their parents have never budgeted. So it's kind of cool to see a 5th grader teach their parents about how to deal with money. Credit unions and high schools teaching financial education. Financial Peace University, Dave Ramsey does things like the baby steps and savings programs and paying off debt quickly. Credit counseling like ourselves, Apprisen, we help people set budgets and finance, figure out credit card payments and saving houses and all kinds of things. Incentives-based savings, really cool. Save to Win is something you should look up, and you should be asking other credit unions here to do that, because great savings can be had, and it really promotes savings. What can you do? Save for your own emergencies. Have that in place. Educate your employees, or if you are the employee, help educate your employer and say, hey, we need to have something that promotes savings and financial education at our workplace. And that is my time. Next up is Officer Yates. Thank you.
Like I said, I'm Officer Yates with the Pasco Police Department, and I'm here to talk to you a little bit about identity theft. One of the things that Mr. Jones was talking about, he talks about how to save your money and all that stuff that goes along with it. I'm here to try to take it away from you, okay? Because I need that money too, but I don't want to have to work for it. So there's all kinds of different ways of doing it. One of the things that are coming into the police department now, I've labeled them into 4 groups. And what I really thought was kind of strange on this, when we started labeling the calls of service for these different type of areas, that the forgeries were only at 5%, or 5% of the calls to the officers. And I know myself, listen to the radio, that it isn't true. Or I'm the one that gets those reports, and I'm the one that has to go out and check on these. So I started checking a little more with my clerks, and she handed me, or pointed to 180 case folders, and goes, you go through and find out which ones are fraud and which ones are thefts. And I go, okay, never mind, I'll stick with my 5. But what happens is the classifications will change. The forgery, the officer may actually make it a theft, because there was things stolen whenever the check was used or the credit card was used, so they may make it a theft. So that will change some of these a little bit. Fraud, 130, and this is also for the first 6 months of 2014. So far about 132 reports has been generated for 2014-19. The UIBC, unlawful issuance of a bank check. Okay, as long as you got checks, you can still write them, right? You don't have to worry about money in there. So, and that's kind of what this falls into. I keep writing checks, and there isn't any money. I got to stay away from ain't, right? That's bad. Anyway, and you notice that there's only 1 call so far within that 6-month period. Really sounds kind of strange, but we're starting to move now more to the credit cards, things like the debit cards. We don't have a lot of checks anymore. I would imagine, I'm sure we have some bankers here, that a lot of these are going to start disappearing in the way of the checks. Counterfeits. I know that we get a lot more counterfeits than this, but when the counterfeit bill is used, it's actually classified as a theft. So once again, these ones that we see right here are the ones that the retailer stopped it. They go, nah, this ain't right. And the guy runs off after he says, I'm going to call the police. So he runs off. Percentage of the calls for service from the officers. One of the things, once you break this down into the decimal points, it doesn't really show what it's going to take for me to work each one of those cases. It may take me 3 months just for one case. One, I've got to turn around and get search warrants to get bank records. I have to wait for that information to come back. There was a case I worked not too long ago. It was over $2 million. It took me almost 6 months to get all that paperwork together. And by the time it was done, I had over 4,000 pages in this particular case. It turned out to be the largest case in the state of Washington for I'm trying to stay away from this, but from a county agency. So it turned out to be the biggest one in the United States, which kind of surprised me. but over 4,000 pages, and I like it when a defense attorney complains because there's too much paperwork. You know, I must have went through that paperwork 10 different times for charge-wise. Once again, the bar graphs. I'm not too up on bar graphs, but I needed some color. One of the things that we want to put out today is some different ways that you can protect yourself. This particular one, I had a person tell me I couldn't use certain words in this thing because one of my first things on this, and she's sitting right here grinning at me, I had up here, shut up. And that's exactly the easiest way for me to say that. When people call you and ask you for your personal information on the phone, please shut up. I mean, that's the easiest way for me to say it. Your bank is not going to call you asking for it. And if they do, they're going to tell you to come in. So the information that you're giving out over the phone, it's more than likely going to the bad guy. Shred your information. I worked a case not too long ago where a family, that was their only function, was to go into garbage cans. And they would bring it back and mom would sort through them and credit card information, all that stuff, and then she would send them out on buy-in sprees, which was kind of an interesting deal. Guard your mailbox. You know, out in the rural areas, you'll find mailboxes, 5, 6 of them in a row. These people here used to love those because they'd come through at about 3 o'clock in the morning, and it's called boxing, and they would empty all them mailboxes. All the information that you had is now in their hands, and they do quite a bit with it. One of the things to help yourself is check your credit report. I'm going to turn around and get your personal information, and I'm going to change your address because I don't want you to know that I have a credit card now under your name. So I'm going to change that address so all that information comes to me and I can throw it away. But it isn't until you want to buy that new car or you want to buy a new house that you find out that you've got 2 or 3 credit cards under somebody else's name or under your name, but you're charged for it, but they're the ones who benefited from it. There's several of them out there that are offered. Bank statements. I hate to keep saying cases that I've done, but my whole presentation is off cases that I've worked. This particular one, the reason I put this up in here, she would make deposits into your bank account. And she would withdraw about $600 to $900 each time she did that. Nobody thinks about checks coming in and people taking money. It's me coming in with a check going, hey, I need to cash this. And then you go, well, this is kind of weird. But nobody thinks about it when I deposit it. So if you come up there, you have your deposit slip and you make this deposit and you ask for $600 back when the check is $3,000, nobody pays attention. Believe me. She was doing close to $10,000 a month at it. So examine the withdrawals and the deposits. Make sure that they are yours. ATMs, credit cards are getting to be quite a deal. When you're at an ATM machine, don't let this guy stand behind you and looking over your shoulder. There's probably only one reason he's there, right? He's trying to get your information, your PIN numbers. I have another class where I actually show an ATM that's been altered, the items that have been removed off of it and their items put on it. It's kind of an interesting deal. Firewalls. Don't use the same passwords like me. Okay? I'm horrible at it. I've got 5 or 6 of them from work. I got the ones at home. I've got my iPad. I got my iPhone. And holy smokes. I don't know where I'm going to hide all these numbers. So I end up using the same ones over and over again. So if you get into my stuff, you find one, you got them all. So good luck with all that. Good software. Prevent the hackers from entering your computer. I am not no whiz on computers. I can turn around and get into them, and I can order my car parts and all that stuff, you know. But when it comes to all this stuff, I rely on somebody else to save me. Memorize the PIN numbers. Remember what I was just talking about? Holy smokes. So I do keep a little list now. And that's another thing I'll tell you to do, is never write them down. Okay? Never write them down, or where somebody can come across them. It's kind of like talking to your banker, and you want to tell them that somebody got to your credit card, and where was your PIN number written on the credit card. So listen what they got to say about that. You're not going to be happy. So a lot of them won't honor the fraud, and some of them do. One of the things that we're getting a ton of is the phone calls. You have won all kinds of money, or using Craigslist. I want to buy your car. I'm going to send you this huge check. Well, I'm going to send you a check, and lo and behold, when you get the check, it's for more money than you want for the car. And they tell you, go ahead and cash that check and just send the extra money back. Okay, so you turn around and you send them $500, and then the check's no good. So now you get to pay for all of it. Okay, things like that are kind of weird. So let's don't get caught up in it. Who's calling? Why are they contacting you? Take time to talk about the offer that they're given. And this is going to be going back to, you've won $1 million. You know, all I need is $500 to pay taxes, and I'll send you your money. I can guarantee you we get those at least 2 to 3 times a day of these particular scams. And hopefully some of the classes that I've given is why these people are showing up at the front counter of the police department going, hey, is this real? And I go, give me that. And it goes in the garbage because it isn't real. I had to fight a lady one day. We're pulling back and forth on this thing. And I go, I tell you what, why don't you let me make you a copy, and then you can have the copy. She goes, okay. So I made her a copy. I went and shred hers because it was a check. And I shredded that neat little check that she just got, and she was just happy as could be. The big scams, they're going to be coming in Nigeria, Jamaica, United Kingdom, even Canada. Everybody's heard of the ones coming out of Canada about, hey, Grandma, I'm stuck in jail up here. I need $250. You know, and hey, Johnny, is that you? And he goes, yep, Grandma, this is Johnny. Okay, he didn't have the faintest idea who he was talking to, but now you just told him his name. So yeah, this is Johnny. I need $500. I need you to wire it to me. Okay, and as soon as you wire it to you, I'll call back and give you you can give me the tracking number. Once I have that tracking number, I could be any place in the world and get your information. Okay, the lotto. You're the winner of the lotto. How in the world can you win if you never entered? Okay? I want to know how that works because I want part of it. You know, it's, anyway, verify the information. I call you and I tell you that your credit card has been compromised, and I need all that, your personal information, and I need your credit card number and all that, you know, over the phone. Okay? You read about this not too long ago. It hit a lot of credit unions, and I'm not going to say any credit unions because there's some people out there I know from the credit unions that'll throw stuff at me. So I'm not going to mention their names, but everybody's seen it in the paper. Okay? Go to your credit union. The bank's not going to ask you for your personal information. If he turns around and asks you on that, remember what I said earlier? Shut up and hang up. Okay? Personal information ain't going to be asking from that. Okay? So don't be giving it to them. One particular one says, I don't have a card from that credit union, but I have this one. Well, what's that number? He handed it over. Okay? These are true stories. These aren't things that I make up, because this is something that I do all the time. So whether it's $1 million case or $2 million case or the $500 one, it doesn't make any difference. I can come into your business, and if you give me enough time, I can be taking money from you. So I want to thank you very much, and I cannot believe the knowledge that you have sitting on this counter, on this panel over here. I was amazed on some of the stuff. So anyway, thank you very much.